Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Chase on Two Wheels here at the shop with Yamaha's R7. And we've done a first ride on the R7, guys, and last week we did a video breaking down the technical differences between the R7 and the MT-07, and I've noticed a lot of you guys asking a very specific question, and that was, Chase, do you think that I, as a rider, could maybe start on this motorcycle? Would it be a good starter motorcycle? And I honestly feel like that is a phenomenal question. So, it is such a phenomenal question. Today, we're going to answer that. Can you start on a Yamaha R7 as your first motorcycle? If you guys are excited for this video, make sure to hit that like button. I love you a lot for doing it. And let's get into it while we have this beautiful thing here at the shop. Without further ado, ladies and gents, let's go. You guys have never ridden before, you don't own a motorcycle, and you want to get a Yamaha R7. Quick note, we are on a model with a quick shifter that is not stock. Just things to note. Let's get it going. Also, you guys drop a like in the comments. Today's the first episode that I've done a video with the new Atlas 3.0. Don't know if you guys can see it, but doesn't change the fact that it's true. So guys, I want to start this video with a fact. Every single motorcycle in existence you can start on. You're right, you can start on a freaking H2 if you want to. Now granted, let's go ahead and handle this. We are in the United States here, so I'm going to be talking to a United States audience. If you were in a different country, please look for your look for the legalities in your country of what you can and can't start on. I'm going to be talking to a U.S. audience. But yeah, guys, you can literally start on anything. Here in the U.S., if you're 16, you pass your motorcycle license and get all that stuff, you can start on an H2. So we're not talking about legally can you start on an R7. We're talking about practically, is this a good motorcycle to start on? If you're gonna ask me, generally, go ahead and give you guys this answer. I do think the R7 is a phenomenal motorcycle to start on, but don't worry, I got a lot of supporting arguments that we're gonna get into before. Did you wrote it wrong. So guys, first off, let's talk about this beautiful, you see this? Beautiful CP2 engine. I love this engine for a beginner or starter motorcycle. I think it has a very linear power band. It doesn't hit you in the face at any point, and that makes it a lot easier to ride, especially if you're somebody new to the market and you don't really have a lot of throttle control and you haven't built up the muscle memory of how to modulate a throttle. You don't have to worry about what gear you're in, what throttle or what RPM you're at. It's a very easy riding motorcycle, and that's something characteristic of a linear engine, and the CP2 that's in this thing is gorgeous. The cool thing is, if you ride this thing calm, you know, we're in a third gear going, what, 40 something? Look at this, I can just slowly add onto the throttle, very smooth. Now, if you're a more experienced rider, maybe you've been riding for a little bit longer, or maybe you do start on this thing and now you're getting really confident, I feel like this is a beautiful amount of power for one to grow into. I, as a, been riding for over a decade, I find this motorcycle extremely fun. You guys know I love the MT-07, same engine that's in the R7. So if you want to get up and go, it's got a lot of torque to get you up and going, but it's a smooth power delivery so that when you're early on, you can ride this thing slow and you're totally fine. So that's one of the things I love about this as a starter bike, is it gives you something you can handle from the get-go, but it gives you also something that you can grow into after you get used to it. So guys, let's talk about looks real quick, because I think a lot of you guys are asking for this motorcycle as a starter bike. You're hoping it's a good starter bike because it looks phenomenal. It looks like the R6, it looks like the R1, it even looks like the R3 a little bit. And I personally, I think this is one of the best bikes look-wise on the market right now. It really fits the aesthetic that I like in motorcycles. And I love that Yamaha put this platform and made it look the way it did, because you, with this motorcycle, can look like you are on the top of the line R1 from Yamaha. I love that you can get the look without having to do the sacrificing you typically do. Typically, if you want a bike like this, you have to be riding an R1 or an R6. And let me go ahead and tell you, both of those motorcycles are absolute psychopaths, and they are made for a super specific purpose. If you're not riding on the track, or you're not riding in a technical area, you are not going to be enjoying that ride. Whereas here on the R7, I would argue the R7 and the R3 are the only bikes in Yamaha's Super Sport line that you can actually get dual purpose out of. If you want to ride them hard, you can, but you don't have to enjoy the motorcycle. I think the R7 is phenomenal at that, and I love that you can get the looks that you want without being forced to have a motorcycle that's literally only good at riding in a, you know, super sporty situation. So guys, the next topic that I want to touch on that I think makes this motorcycle so good for beginners is the weight. This motorcycle is right above 400 pounds. If I remember correctly, it's 414, which is pretty light for a motorcycle. And regardless of how much it weighs, you guys know I don't really talk about stats. I talk about the way bikes feel. This bike feels like a feather. And that's going to make it not only easy for you guys to throw back and forth. You guys can see in these like curvy roads, I'm having no problem throwing the bike over, and it takes zero energy. Let me go ahead and tell you guys, we'll get into body position in a second, but between the weight and the body position, this bike just falls in whatever direction you want it to. But on top of the falling into a turn, the bike being lighter is also going to help you be more maneuverable on the motorcycle. Now, we're kind of on a back road right now, but if you chose to maybe ride this thing downtown or something like that, or somewhere where you're going to have a lot more traffic, that lightweight is going to make the motorcycle so much easier to maneuver around, and it's not going to tire you out as much. I lived in downtown Atlanta and had an R6 forever. It was like 5 years I was riding R6s. Bro, just riding around downtown would exhaust you because the bike's heavy and you're just having to maneuver it all over the place. Whereas this thing, so light. It's super easy to maneuver, and that's going to be a lot easier on a new rider because, you know, you guys are trying to you're trying to learn everything you need to do on a motorcycle, and the heavier bike you start with, the harder time you're going to have. The easier you have of a bike to ride, the better of a rider that bike is going to make you. I think the R7 fits a really good spot in the industry where if you've got a little bit of riding experience, you maybe don't have to start on the R3 now. You can start out on the R7. You get a little more longevity out of your motorcycle if you need anything over the R7. Now guys, I know I'm talking a lot of good about why this would be a phenomenal starter bike, but I do want to be clear, there are a couple things I want you guys to watch out for. One of the things is the body position. So with the R7, you know, you guys can see from our camera car footage here, you are leaned over on the motorcycle. This is a attack position. This is a race position. And in that attack position, it's going to help you if you're doing technical riding. But I will say, as a beginner, it is going to be a little harder to control the motorcycle because you're going to have to learn how to hold your weight with your abs, with your legs on the tank, instead of just sitting in the seat of the motorcycle. I do feel like it might take you a little longer to learn how to ride on something like this, and you're not going to be as easily controlling the motorcycle as you would on something maybe like an MT-07 or a R3. I think both of those bikes are probably better for somebody that's never sat on a motorcycle before, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's something that should, you know, hinder you guys. All that means is I think you guys are going to need to spend a little more time in a parking lot getting really used to how to control the motorcycle. The last thing you want to do on a bike like this is lean over the handlebars and steer the motorcycle and put weight on the handlebars. You should be holding the bike with your legs and just, you know, barely touching the handlebars. And that's something you learn over time, but I think it might take a little longer for you to learn that on a bike like this. So just keep that kind of stuff in mind. So another thing, guys, that it doesn't make this bike bad to start on, but it's just something to keep in mind. With the R7, one of the benefits of the R7 actually is you have adjustable suspension. If you can tell these little orange bits, you can twist these and change the preload, the dampening of your suspension. Now, for a new rider, I do not think you guys are going to be doing that. I would actually highly recommend you guys not to. I think that's, you know, far advanced for what you should probably be focusing on as a new rider. It's cool to have if you're more experienced. You can dial the bike into what you want, and that's something you can grow into. But I just don't want a lot of you guys getting this bike and trying to figure out suspension as a new rider. You guys need to be focusing on your rider ability and getting that finesse with your braking and your throttle hand. I think that's far more important than having stuff like adjustable suspension. But it is something cool to grow into. But as a new rider, just, you know, probably avoid doing any of the adjustable suspension. Another downfall for this motorcycle that kind of sucks for a beginner rider is that it doesn't have modes. Now, as an experienced rider, I don't really care. The engine here is, I'm totally capable with handling whatever I need to handle. The bike does have ABS, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I do really like suggesting bikes with modes to beginners, because that way you can start out on a slower mode and the bike won't be as fast for you. And then you can actually, you know, electronically grow into the motorcycle. I really like suggesting motorcycles with modes, but I do feel like this engine is smooth enough to where it doesn't necessarily need modes. It would just be nice to see them on this bike, but again, it's not one of those necessary things. It's got far more good stuff going on it than bad. Check out the DRZ. What's up, man? All right, guys, so final stuff I wanted to hit on is reliability. If you guys aren't familiar, I mean, you're looking up beginner motorcycles, you might not be familiar. The R7 is a Yamaha motorcycle. Yamaha motorcycles are known for being extremely reliable. I've had Yamahas my entire riding career, and I have been extremely happy with them. The last thing you want as a beginner rider is to get some Euro motorcycle that's expensive and hard to work on. But if you start out on a Yamaha, then suddenly, for one, there's dealerships all over the place. So if something goes down, there's plenty of opportunities to take it somewhere to get it worked on. Secondly, you don't want to be buying a motorcycle to start riding on that you are going to have to be working on all the time, and you're going to have these little problems. Yamahas are known for like just being super reliable and always working. The same with Suzuki, Honda, and Kawasaki. That reliability, like, you don't want to be having to work on your beginner bike. You want to be focusing on riding, or I would imagine you would want to be. Which is why I tend to recommend the big four bikes for beginner bikes, because I want you guys out there riding. I want you experiencing what riding is like. I don't think a lot of people get into motorcycling so they can fix their motorcycle. Eventually, you know, you get to that point, but that's just not something you do from the get-go. And guys, that kind of brings us to the end of the video. You know, back when I started on a SV650, and I liked the way it looked. It looked cool and it was cheap. The R7 does all of that as well. It comes in brand new at a $9,000 price point, and it's a very good engine class. I love the 600, 700 engine class. A lot of people that start out on the lower CC motorcycle, you know, you're looking at your Ninja 400s, your R3s. A lot of those people decide that they want a little more power, and they end up upgrading anyway. But I feel like the 6 to 700 class is the ideal size to where you're able to have a beginner motorcycle that you start on, and you could realistically ride that bike for years. True story, the only reason I got rid of my SV650 is because I wrecked it and I got the insurance money and I upgraded to an R6. Had I not wrecked that SV650, God knows I might have been riding that thing today. So I personally, even if you don't have, I had no riding experience, guys. I had never driven a manual car. I had never ridden a motorcycle before, and I started on a 650, and everything turned out fine, man. I'm still riding. I still love motorcycles, and I think you get a lot of longevity out of a motorcycle like this with this engine size. So I honestly feel like it's a phenomenal bike. The only reason you would start on something like this over like an MT-03, you know, you're looking at the type of riding you might want to be doing. If you plan on doing any sort of aggressive riding, highly recommend you do the R7 over an MT-07. The body position is going to be so much better for that type of riding, and you guys will know that the second you get on it, and you know, you'll hit one turn and you'll be like, oh, I see what this thing's all about. So yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on starting on a Yamaha R7. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, and I appreciate you guys riding around with us today. We do have the R7 in the shop thanks to Yamaha for a bit longer, so if you guys have any questions or videos you want us to hit about the R7, let us know in the comments, and we'll gladly make them if possible. Also, please hit that like button. It's how we know you guys want to see more content like this in the future. And make sure to subscribe if you like motorcycle content, man. We make a ton of it here on the channel. I'm Chaseontwowheels, guys. I appreciate you riding around with me, and we'll see you on the next one. Later. Outro crew. Just like that, R7 back. What should I ask the outro crew, Bo? When am I getting an R7? Or when they are getting an R7? Outro crew, if you made it to the end of the video, you're actually in the outro crew, so that's why everybody puts OC in their comments. It stands for outro crew. All it does is let us know that you guys made it to the end of the video, because we know and love you guys a little longer. So, outro crew, let us know in the comments, should I get an R7? It depends how this video does, I guess. Okay, bye.